the host of this show gets super sick and therefore has to make a very, very last-minute edition of Newbie Sports. Oh, man, I'm very glad that I am over that dizzy spell. That was really weird. Anyways, here is this video. And before we get to the predictions, I'm going to run down the rules of the little competition that I'm doing that I would love you to participate in. So, in order to get points, you have to make a comment on this video as to what your predictions are for the games that I lay out before the kickoff of the first game that I mention. So that's going to be tomorrow night. So I'm making this super fast so that you have a chance to look at things and make a comment and stuff. And you can continue to get points on games that you comment on before the kickoff of the game that you're predicting. But in order to get points, you have to comment before the games that you're predicting. That's how I'm going to lay that out. How you get points. You can get up to 2 points total per game. The first point is if you select the winner. The second point is if you pick both point differentials correct. Now, you can get half a point if you pick only 1 point, one score correct, rather. So, if I say BYU playing at Texas Tech, BYU is going to win 30, Texas Tech wins 28, and that's what happens, I get 2 points. But if BYU didn't win, or if one of the scores was wrong, you don't get those points. So, half a point for either team's point score that you get correct, and then a point if you pick the winner. And then that means that you get the second point if you pick both points correct. I am going to give you a quarter point if you get the point differential correct. So if you pick a game to go 19-17 and it ends up being 21-19, that's still 2 points. You get the quarter point. Now, how this works against me. If you tie me, I will give you an additional point. If you get better than me, I'll give you an additional point. And all of these points that you get better than me give you an additional ticket to the drawing we're going to do at the end of the year. All of these points you get, I'm going to have a little bowl. I'm going to put little tickets in that have your name on them, your username on them. And then I get to draw someone who gets the $20 gift card at the end of the season. So, participate in the game at any point in the season, and you could possibly get your name on some tickets to win. So, if you have more points than me at the end of the week, I give you a bonus ticket. If you tie with me, I'll give you half a point to roll over to the next week. Anything fewer than 1 point will roll over to the next week. And with that being said, we've gone long enough. Let's get to the predictions. And there are a lot this game. A lot this week. I'm stumbling a lot. Yeah. The quality of the production is going to get better, I swear. Anyways, Week 11 predictions. The non-ranked games. Houston at UCF. These are all key games that I think have some level of significance to the remainder of the season for a conference, for playoffs, for the individual teams, etc. So Houston is in a win-or-done situation at UCF. And I think Houston is going to win 27-24. I do think that's going to be a fairly tight game, though. Houston wins on the road at UCF. Houston wins on the road at UCF 27-24. Tulane at Memphis. I think both of these teams are in a situation where they either win or their season's done. Tulane at Memphis. I picked Memphis to win this 35-24. It hurts my soul to go against Jake. I love that kid, but I think the Memphis Tigers are a good team this year, and I think that at home that they will overwhelm the Tulane. Yeah, I think they'll overwhelm Tulane. James Maddison at Marshall. Now, James Madison University is a one-loss Group of 5 team, and unless I'm wrong, they still could participate in the playoffs if they end up being the highest conference champion at the end of the year. So I believe them being a one-loss team puts them into the running to possibly be the highest ranked Group of 5 conference champion if they win out the rest of the season. And with that being said, I do think James Madison University is going to defeat Marshall 28-20, even though they're at Marshall. The spread's a little wider than that, but I think it'll be an 8-point spread, 8-point differential. Iowa State at TCU. Now TCU's not done yet. Iowa State's fairly done, I think, to say at this point. And TCU is one of those teams that could sneak up on you and could possibly disrupt a bunch of people's seasons. With that being said, I still think Iowa State comes into TCU and claims the win 35-20. Next, San Diego State at Hawaii. San Diego State, another only one loss Group of 5 team. So they are still in the running to be the top conference champion if they win their conference. I think they defeat Hawaii at Hawaii 28-24. Now on to our ranked games. Northwestern at 19th ranked USC. I think USC is going to win this game 38-24. And that game I'll come to at the end. Because it's BYU at Texas Tech. I'll end with that one. Indiana at Penn State. I think this is a key game, even though it's fairly clear that Indiana's going to win, because Penn State is on the verge of their first 6-game losing streak since 2004. Maybe they dig down deep and come up with a big win. They're fighting for bowl eligibility at this point, which is really sad because they were in the running to try to be the college football playoff champion. So the fact that they're just playing for bowls is really sad. But if they can win this week against Indiana, which is going to be a large task, they prevent themselves from being the first 6-game losing streak since 2004. I do think, however, Indiana is going to win 38-17. I think it's going to be a blowout, but the Penn State Nittany Lions could come back, and they could upset Indiana at home. Next game we're going to talk about is Navy at Notre Dame. One of the reasons why I think this is important is Navy is a one-loss possible conference champion right now. And in order for them to get higher up in their credibility, they need a big win. They lost to the North Texas earlier, and that pulled them down quite a bit. But if they can pull up off the upset at Notre Dame, that could save their season. Even so, I do regrettably think Notre Dame is going to come up with a win here, 31-27. The 10th ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish are going to take the win, 31-27. But anything could happen. It still is a key game. Next game, Georgia at Mississippi State. Mississippi State has been a really scrappy team the last couple of weeks. They're kind of like Kansas in the Big 12 last year. You can't consider them just an easy win. And the spread's a little tighter this week. I do think Georgia comes up with a win, 33-28, but that means that Mississippi State covers that. Georgia, I do think, is going to win this game. But I think Mississippi State is going to have another battle and give them a run for their money. Texas A&M, number 3, at 22nd ranked Missouri. I think A&M comes up with the win, 28-24. I think Missouri's lost their traction. They're still ranked up there because they theoretically could go to the SEC championship if they win out and other people lose. But I think their season's done. I think Texas A&M delivers the death knell into Missouri's season. Oregon, ranked number 9, at 20th ranked Iowa. I do think Oregon comes up with the win, 38-35. They're at Iowa, and we've seen Oregon be tested by Indiana. I don't know if we can count Penn State as a test anymore, given how their streak has gone. But Iowa is a team that should have been ranked earlier than this week, if we're being honest. And we'll see what the Oregon Ducks can do. I think they come up with a win. I think they come up with a win 38-35 with a field goal to win the game. Auburn at Vanderbilt. Now, I do think Vanderbilt wins this game 31-17. But this is another situation where if they lose, they're done. Their season is all the way over if Auburn manages to get this win. So they're going to be on key games until they pick up their third loss. Wake Forest at Virginia. Now, Virginia is ranked a little low for someone in their conference championship lineup. And that's a little sad, honestly. But they're a one-loss team. They're one loss in a Power 5 conference, and they're ranked 14th. Whatever. I think Virginia is going to pick up the win 33-28. Now, LSU at Alabama. This is another one where LSU is fighting for something. And Alabama has their loss earlier this season, but is currently undefeated in the Big 12. That's why they're ranked number 4. Now, they're not undefeated. They do have a loss against a really not great Florida State team. So, take that for what you will. But that's not a quality loss. I don't understand why they're ranked so high. I don't get it. Oregon, I think, has done better than Alabama. Well, Alabama's had some fairly significant ranked games. So, I'll give them that. I'll give Alabama that. But that loss against Florida State should pull them out of 4. So, who knows? Maybe they lose to the LSU Tigers and they drop dramatically, because that's what will happen if they lose to LSU. So I think Alabama is ranked number 4, but they got to win out in order to hold that spot. I don't think they get higher unless they defeat Texas A&M in the championship game, that is. Or maybe they play each other. But yeah, which brings us to the game that I will be having a watch party for. BYU at Texas Tech. Now, BYU is undefeated in the Big 12. And Texas Tech has only had one loss. There's a lot of implications in this, and game day is making an appearance at this game. So, 10 a.m. kickoff is going to be really hard. Especially for BYU historically. They don't do too well in the afternoon and the morning. But we'll see what they do. Being at Texas Tech, being in the morning, and being the team that has overcome adversity, but has had adversity to overcome, we'll see how they do. We'll see how they do. While I would love Cougar Nation to be able to pick BYU, I just can't do it. I think this Texas Tech team is really, really good. And I think BYU does come up just short in this game. I think this is going to be a fairly high-scoring game. It's going to be 38-33 in favor of Texas Tech. Now, that doesn't put BYU out. That actually puts BYU in the most favorable position they could be in, aside from winning. And Utah fans, that actually puts you in the least favorable position if BYU loses. So Utah fans, if you want any chance at the Big 12 title game, BYU needs to win out the rest of the year. And if they don't, you're kind of done. You're kind of done, which is why I don't understand why you're ranked 13th. I don't. You're a great team. You're not really in contention for the Big 12 title at this point just yet. So a few catastrophic things have to happen in order for you to have a shot. Now, last year, BYU went 9-0, and then they played Kansas and lost at home. So any one of these Big 12 teams that we play for the rest of the year could be a problem. So BYU needs to really focus. And that's true for Texas Tech. That's true for UCF. That's true for Cincinnati. And quite frankly, that's true for Utah. If they lose one more time, Utah season's done. But anyways, those are my predictions for Week 11's football games. And remember, leave a comment as to your predictions before each of these games start. You don't have to leave every single one before a game starts, but if you're going to make a prediction about a game, you have to comment before the game kicks off in order for your prediction to count. And you don't have to bet all of them. You don't have to predict all of them. But the more games that you predict and succeed at predicting that I've laid out in these key games, the more points you get. And if your team wins, you get a point. If you get either of the points correct, you get half a point, up to 2 points total. If the point differential is correct and you didn't select the winners the points, you'll get a quarter point. And lastly, if you tie my points at the end of the week, I'll give you half a point to roll over to the next week. But if you get more points than me, I will give you an additional ticket to drop in the drawing for the end of the year. Anything less than 1 point rolls over to the next week. With that being said, thank you for listening, and this has been Newbie Sports.